After World War II, English organ building no longer aimed for orchestral sounds. The ideals of the organ reform movement, which had begun decades earlier in Germany, made a huge impression in England, particularly in 1954 when Harrison and Harrison built a new organ for London's Royal Festival Hall. What had changed? Well, there was now an increase of mixtures and mutations on all divisions. There was now a much more independent pedal division, and finally fewer stops at 8-foot pitch.
In the 1950s and the 1960s, people started to get more interested in the basic sound of the organ and started looking towards classical organs again, getting rather fed up with what they considered to be the more boring sound of the romantic organs. And they went back to historic organs of the 17th and 18th centuries. In the process, they produced a considerably more brilliant and perhaps rather lighter sound than the originals had had, but it had its own excitement and its own interest and made its own contribution to the music of its period.
The organ reform principles clearly influenced the design of the organ built by J.W. Walker in 1967 for the Metropolitan Cathedral in Liverpool. Here at Liverpool Metropolitan Cathedral, the organ is a very good example of what British organ builders aimed for in the 1960s. They wanted brightness and clarity rather than the dark and mystical colours of the orchestral organ. A very interesting feature here are the horizontal trumpets, which, together with the generous acoustics of the building, make for a great effect in improvisation. What is also very effective in this organ is using unusual combinations of mutations. One could label this as broken glass sounds. English organists in the 1950s and 60s improvised in a fairly traditional manner. They would use traditional harmonies, chords. It would sound very Mendelssohnian. Real progress in organ music was found more in composition rather than improvisation, and the leading key figure here was William Mathias. His organ music was full of energy and excitement, and he uses a technique which is called quartal harmony. What is quartal harmony? Well, chords commonly used in Western music are based on tertian harmony because they're made up of superimposed thirds, something like that. In quartal harmony, the focus is on the fourth, and by superimposing fourths, one can create an intriguing sound world. In my Mathias-style improvisation, I'm going to use an idea which I found in one of his pieces called Jubilate. It starts with a very percussive loud chord on the grate and is followed by some soft rumbling on the swell.